I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Hey guys, it's me Zell, and we are here today with the long asked for anticipated Star Wars movie ranking order. I've been asked this quite a few times, even before I finished watching all the movies, but we're finally here. I watched through all the movies for the first time, as in like, I finally saw the original trilogy, because I've seen all the other movies at least once before. So I'm someone that grew up with the prequels. For whatever reason, I just didn't get around to seeing the original trilogy, or it didn't have any recollection in my mind about them. Probably saw glimpses. Of course I saw clips and references to the movies. Of course I knew Luke, I am your father. So spoiler alert, cat's out of the bag. And then I did see the sequels once in the theater when they first came out, because I'm a relatively avid moviegoer, and those are some pretty like blockbuster films, however you feel about them, but you can always expect a good visual show, and that's what I love to go to movies for, is in particular the ones with really pretty wonderful visuals that look great on the big screen. So yeah, and then of course same with Solo and Rogue One. I had seen those because Star Wars is good about those big pictures, big world kind of stuff. So yeah, so we're gonna be ranking the movies. Obviously, this is my opinion. Everyone that I've seen or that has shared their personal view on is all different and surprising. You might be surprised what people order movies. So I've been surprised by quite a few. So I am wearing my R2-D2 scarf today in honor of this. So thank you to a community member for that. So I guess let's just get right to it.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
So I will be using this tier maker website because it's handy. Now, just throwing it out there, I enjoyed all the movies. So my ranking is not going to be like bottom of the list, this is trash, I don't like it. Plenty of people have that opinion, and that's completely fine. Like, everyone's different. I found enjoyment in each and every one of these in some capacity. Some of them I enjoyed more than others, and that might be for different reasons. So, you know, take this ranking, like, listing with a grain of salt. Like, it's not like when I put something at D, I'm saying I don't like it. I'm saying it's not one of my favorites. So with that said, we're gonna start from the top and work our way down, because that's just how I want to do it. So, so we're gonna start with my favorite, and I think a lot of people are in a similar boat with this movie. Probably not a surprise to some. It is not an original trilogy movie. It is the good old Episode 3. Revenge of the Sith. Now, the reason for this is, obviously, like I said, I was a prequel kid. I grew up with these films. I saw them. They were exciting.
In less than 3 hours, the long-awaited conclusion of the Star Wars epic comes to an end.
Tell me, who are you dressed up as?
I'm Ayla Sakura. I'm a blue Twi'lek.
But again, when I saw those when I was younger, I didn't have any context, and I didn't even really understand what was going on. I just thought, like, oh, these people are fighting with lightsabers. They use these cool abilities with the Force, and I didn't even understand the connection, because not seeing the original trilogy, I'm like, who are these babies? Yeah, so for me, this is a rank 1 because I just enjoyed it a lot. And then, of course, ultra emphasize after seeing the Clone Wars show, it adds way more depth to it, especially Order 66, the one we all dread for. Well, some of us. But yeah, so it was cool to see all these characters in live action again after getting reconnected with them in the Clone Wars show. As much as it's painful, it is cool to see the Order 66 happen on screen with the clones following Anakin. And of course, like, one of the top fights for me is Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting in that last battle on Mustafar. So gotta hand it to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, for slot number 1 for me. Next spot will be not a surprise to folks. I guess surprise for me, kind of, but it's an original trilogy. And it's not what you think it is. It's actually Return of the Jedi. And some of these opinions are just based on my memory of my experience in it. I have obviously only seen the original trilogies once through. I had a lot of fun with the Return of the Jedi in particular. It could have been just the day I was in a good mood, but it was a lot of fun because, one, the Ewoks, and just seeing them, you know, take out and fight the troopers, and you're like, oh, these are just like primal, like, basic weapons, and how are they gonna contest against troopers with their high-tech gear? Well, that's part of why they did win, is they had all these unexpected fighting methods that they weren't trained for, because you don't train against these wild creatures with these, again, rocks and sticks and launchers and all these things. So it was really fun to see that. It was fun to see the revelation of Han. I liked, obviously, that growth and his little interaction with Leia. Of course, the ending, which is obviously controversial, but for me, again, growing up with the prequels and already liking the Revenge of the Sith, having that be Hayden Christensen's Anakin, that was a good way to end. That stuck in my memory. So yeah, Return of the Jedi, and just seeing the growth of Luke, seeing him coming back, being sure of himself, this newfound wisdom.
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
I'm taking Captain Solo and his friend. You can either profit by this or be destroyed. It's your choice, but I warn you not to underestimate my power.
Damn!
Using his insight and his skills on Jabba the Hutt. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Just seeing the growth of the characters and them interacting and having a great ending for their story, celebrating with the Ewoks and friends and all that. So kudos to that. I'm sure I'm missing something else, but those are just some fun things that stick in my mind. Now, my number 3 slot. I did not expect this, but there's something about this movie. There's some of the messages, some of the things. It caused me to think in new ways. It caused me to approach and connect from other parts of the Star Wars movie stuff in different ways that I didn't think about. And while there were some questionable, maybe unsure moments, little choice dialogue or story points, I am gonna give my number 3 to The Last Jedi. Now hold your booze, hold your...
Now, kill the girl.
So, like I said, I was surprised. Now, I originally saw it the first time, and I think I enjoyed it. And then obviously, as people start sharing their opinion more, you start to hear a lot of negativity and a lot of, like, anti-Star Wars, anti-sequels stuff. And I think that started to get to me a little bit, as it does when you hear that over and over again. I'm like, oh, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I didn't like it. But then I saw it again after I had my own experience with it. And I found that I enjoyed it. And I actually had some profound moments or thoughts when I saw it. And like I said, it was not perfect. And I don't claim any of these movies to be perfect. It tells a story. It approaches it in a different way than the other ones, but it still feels Star Wars. It feels to me Star Wars. It just has a different tone to it. Yeah, so I just enjoyed what it brought.
And because of that, I see him turning the lightsaber to strike true. And now kills his true enemy.
What it caused me to feel and question, and just see both the Force and the Jedi and just the whole conflict in a different way. So I think that was something I appreciated from this. Now, like I said, I know it's controversial, but that's also my opinion, so take that what you will.
Don't take it too seriously, because unfortunately those are the ones that make the most noise, but the majority of the people don't feel that way, so keep that in mind.
So, number 4, we'll move on now. Number 4 is, we are going back to the original trilogy here. People are probably expecting The Empire Strikes Back, but no, I'm actually giving it to A New Hope. Most people, when they share the original trilogy, they are usually like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, A New Hope. That's what I hear most people share. Empire is very, very close up there, and I think it was just because it's been the day and my experience with it at the time, but for right now, what comes to mind is I had a lot of fun. So the reason I put A New Hope 4th is that I had a lot of fun with it. I remember going in and I'm like, this is their first time doing Star Wars. Everyone's really excited. This is something new. They're using a whole bunch of cool technology. The cast was really fresh and like feeling it. So I think I was feeling off of that energy, seeing Leia in her element of being very political, speaking her mind, being very like kind of strong and independent. I don't want to be cliche, strong independent woman, but she was willing to stick up for herself and fight for herself, and I like to see that. Luke had some very much like young Anakin, whiny, not sure, teenage moments basically, but then you saw him grow past that. I enjoyed his interaction and his growth with Obi-Wan, and that little moment with Obi-Wan and Vader, especially again knowing the context, background on that, even though it didn't exist at the time. And I love the moment, one that comes to me is when Luke is firing at the Death Star and he's alone at that point, and I think Vader's on his tail and he's about to get overwhelmed, but then Han comes out of nowhere. Like they thought he was gone, but no, he came back and he goes and helps him. So love seeing that Han growth moment. That's why that's number 4. And number 5, like I mentioned, this one is actually The Empire Strikes Back. So this is wrapping up the original trilogy. They all are top tier movies. I'm usually not an older movie type of person, again, just because, I don't know, that's just how I am with visual effects mostly. Like the story, the acting, they were all fun and great, and then again, for their time, the visual effects were really great, and it really wasn't that bad to watch for somebody that's kind of cranky about that. Of course, you have the most nostalgic or most memorable Star Wars thing. One of the memorable ones is the Luke and Vader.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
They're having their conflict. They're fighting fairly long. He says, "I'm your father." Luke's like, "No," and then he falls down. He jumps down the hole. However you want to interpret that moment. I think for me, one of the slower parts was obviously Luke's training, but at the same time, I did enjoy the parts where he was dialoguing with Yoda and having that kind of realization, understanding the Force has more meaning and having some calm and peace. And it was fun seeing Lando for sure. So it was fun seeing the interaction and him reuniting with Han and that little. So yeah, I think that's why that one is number 5 for me. Again, take the list with a grain of salt in the order. It was a lot of fun. It was cool to see things pieced together. You can't downplay the Vader-Luke interaction for sure. Now, after this, like, it kind of got hard to rank, except for my, like, last two spots. These kind of middle ones were kind of harder for me. Probably The Force Awakens. When I first saw it, I had a lot of fun. My second one, I had a lot of fun. It was slightly different. I forgot how cool and overpowered Kylo Ren's like freeze ability was. That's something that sticks out in my mind.
Wow.
The intro, it starts off really strong. I really liked seeing the introduction to the characters. So the introduction to Rey, the introduction to Finn, the introduction to Poe. I thought that was a really strong point for the film, is getting us to know, like, gotta commend it to the movie for that. It's just how they introduced the characters, and they played that off really well. So that's basically, for me, the main point. There were some moments in the film that were more meh, like some questionable things. Like, one thing that sticks out to mind in particular was when Han had Chewie's gun and he fired. He's like, I like this thing. It's surprising. I'm like, is that really the first time you shot that thing? And maybe they could have adjusted, like, I forgot how fun this thing is, or making it seem like this isn't the first time. You've been friends forever, and really?
So just changing, like, the slight interaction.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. Dork alert!
There were some flaws in the sequels, but that, for me, that doesn't impact with my overall enjoyment for them, and them still being part of the Star Wars universe, so. Yeah, so The Force Awakens, that's probably next on my list. And then after that, and close behind, is Rogue One. So I really enjoyed Rogue One. That movie sticks out the most to me in my memory from when I first saw it, that I had left really enjoying it, because it had a really, like, it had a different feeling than all the other Star Wars movies. It had more of a, like, a solemn, kind of a darker tone. I think it just showed an importance that they're like, hey, I know that, like, in the end of the Return of the Jedi, everyone's happy and celebrating and nobody died. You know, obviously, Episode 3, there was some tragedy there, for sure. But Rogue One's like, hey, let everyone you got to know say bye, because they're gone. Everyone just is gone. But they did it out of the sacrifice. They did it for something they chose and they cared about. So I really enjoyed the movie for that sense. I think the only reason it's more middle ground is only because it does have more of that darker undertone, which is not a negative thing. It's just like when I'm ranking these things and I'm like, things that bring excitement and happiness, it's just more middle. That's all. Perfectly well executed movie that I was very happy with. Next on the list is actually Episode 9, The Rise of the Skywalker. So that one I was also debating on if I wanted higher or not. I enjoyed it a lot the first time I saw it, which made me actually see a second time in theaters, because it was really fun. Some of my ideas, some of my perspectives of it did change, obviously slightly after knowing more about the Star Wars universe. And I thought I could have had it higher, but I actually had it lower, only because there were some things that I wish they did a little bit differently that I was a little disappointed in, but it's not like make or break it. It's not like it destroyed what Star Wars is or any of that, like, main legacy or stuff. I know there's some people out there who are frustrated and they feel like it ruins some of the whole thing that, like, the original trilogy set up. I don't feel like they were going that route. I think it can be interpreted that way, but I don't think that was what they implied. So I think it was just a matter of interpretation, and maybe they did mean it a certain way and I'm just thinking about it in a different way. We all interpret these movies in a certain way, and sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're right, but that's part of being part of these fandoms, is we can theorize and have dialogue with each other and come up with new ideas and different perspectives we never thought about before. So, okay, I have two favorite moments in this movie. There's some people that find it cliche, but I don't care. It made me feel exactly what they wanted to make me feel, and that's when everyone showed up and they're like, and who's there? And they're just like, it's just people, like, and that's the thing. I think that's a point they needed to make, because they're saying, like, the First Order is there doing some really messed up stuff, taking our kids, forcing them to be soldiers, mind bending them, you know, mind watching them. And we're sick of it. We don't want to have another dictatorship. We don't want to have another thing where we don't have our freedom. So having people show up now, yes, they probably missed some, they maybe cut it or missed some little bits in there where they could have put a little bit more time into like, how did these people find out all of a sudden? But again, I think that can be, you can insinuate enough to be like Lando, Zori, everyone has their connections, like Wedge was there, like people can just communicate. I loved the moment when she said, "Hello, the Jedi." I found that really cool. I find it very plausible. It does not downplay Anakin. It does not downplay that he's a chosen one. At his time, at that moment, in the main story, he is the chosen one and he made a big difference. That does not mean that there can't be somebody else comes along and in that moment, in that interaction, they did something that was great. In that moment, it wasn't just her. They're saying like she has this force and this strength because the Jedi have grouped behind her and are supporting her there. Just like Palpatine saying, "I'm all the Sith." It's nice to have that support. And when they were all saying, I just loved when they were all saying their little bit. So that was cool, very memorable. Kudos to that. It's definitely up there. Probably could be higher just because some of those grand moments. We're getting to the last few. I was a little surprised by me putting down some of these prequels this low, but yeah, they're not perfect, and I think it's because of some of it is they had some slower moments. I enjoyed them still nonetheless. Again, this doesn't change my opinion about them. So I'm going to be going, of course, the Phantom Menace next. It's just one. It's the only one that has Qui-Gon in it. I love Qui-Gon. I didn't think I liked Qui-Gon when I first saw the movie, but once you know more about what he is, once you know some background about Obi-Wan and this training, and after reading some comics, it's just fun to have Qui-Gon there. He's somebody that was a challenge for the Jedi. He had his own thinking and didn't let the order and the grand mass and scheme of things to change who he was as a person and what he believed in his connection to the Force. So big kudos to that. Also, Maul. So the big fight with Obi-Wan, Maul, and Qui-Gon. Of course, that fight is great. You gotta have that in there. It's fun to see. And you know, getting to see the pod racing with little Annie, that's still cool to see. Obviously full of some early 2000 cringe, but
excuse me.
You're gonna have that. That's just how it is. And then next up is Solo. So Solo's lower down there because it's a fun movie. There's a lot of new parts to it, some new characters. I think part of it is it feels the least Star Wars to me because it doesn't have any Force in it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I think for me, part of my excitement and enjoyment of Star Wars is the Force. I don't recall having seen any moments of that outside of Maul showing up. So kudos to Solo for having Maul show up and both having, they said, Ray Park being there physically and Sam Witwer voicing him. Super cool. I enjoyed some of the, sometimes I think I was a little confused, but I don't think it was important necessarily that Kira character and never having heard her before, but there's parts of Han's past, of course, we won't know. So just seeing some fun parts. Again, I think part of it is just like there's not a lot of stuff that comes out to mind outside of, and I didn't mind. I liked the droid. I know some people found her annoying, but I actually found it fun that Lando had a confusing relationship with the droid. I thought that was different and very Star Wars because they've always stretched boundaries or whatever in that area, that they're like, this is space, this is universe, there's all kinds of relationships and who knows. So Solo was fun in that way. And then last but not least, and no hard feelings, but Attack of the Clones. And I didn't rank anything D because, again, I don't find anything that bad. And this is just, again, don't focus too much on these levels. But Attack of the Clones is mostly down there because, for me, the cringy romance parts. I'm not one of those people where I'm going to blame Natalie Portman or Hayden Christensen or anything.
Holographic meatloaf? My favorite!
And I always say this, it's a culmination of the writing, of the directing, just the way that the characters were at that time for being young, ignorant, hopeless in love characters, right? So they both grew up with, I don't really know Padme's upbringing with her parents, but she's already taken on large responsibilities as being a young queen, which not everyone has to do, except in Naboo, apparently. And then, of course, Anakin has very unexperienced ideas of relationships because his mom was never with anybody. He just never got to see that kind of relationship. So both of these people, strong emotions, feeling confused. Anakin's already a very highly emotional person. And then Padme is conflicted with her political, you know, she's pretty wise beyond her years at times. The love they have for each other can obviously make them do things that maybe isn't the best move, but, you know, obviously can't deny that it's cool seeing the whole clone process with Obi-Wan going to the Camino area, and then seeing the part where they were captured and fighting in the arena with the different creatures, and so that part was really cool. But yeah, so that is my ranking of all the Star Wars movies, the full saga, and Solo and Rogue One, the standalone movies. Overall, I've enjoyed all Star Wars movies. They're all fun in the different reign, different focus, but they all have the same themes. They all have some unifying characters, and, well, who's to say no to a fun universe that has been created for us to enjoy. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this long video of my rambling and sharing thoughts about these movies. I've learned a lot, and I still have lots to learn. I went from just a fledgling youngling to maybe Jedi Master. I wouldn't say that. I'm probably like a Jedi Knight still. I got a lot of books to read. But yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed this content. Feel free to share your comments below. You can share your own rankings and see how different everyone is, and that we all enjoy the movies differently, and you might be surprised by some of the results. I'm sure some of you might be surprised by mine, but overall, be kind to one another, be safe, be well, and I will see you on the next one.